All right, everybody, welcome. You are live on Shally's Alley, and it is Friday, May 22nd of 2026. Got to timestamp these things because someday I'm going to look back at these and be like, who the hell is this guy? Who's that? Who's the handsome guy on the bottom there? But who's this guy? So, folks, today I have a very special guest, and I know all my guests are special. I always say that they all are special. But today I have with me somebody that I have known longer than almost everybody else except for one person in my life. Andrew Middleton and I met in the United States Peace Corps service 30 years ago. 30 years ago. And look how handsome he still is. I mean, where's your gray hair, man? Like I gotta dye my hair and stuff. It's not there. So, welcome, Andrew. It is awesome to have you. Say hi
Thank
to
you.
everybody. Well, there's
Hi,
at least
hello.
two people watching you and I, so we're good.
All right, good.
Folks, honestly, this has the potential of being a phenomenal, groundbreaking episode of Shally's Alley because let me tell you who Andrew is and what he does. Not only is he a returned Peace Corps volunteer, more about that later, but what we've done in our lives in the 30 years that we've been on this planet converges in some really meaningful ways in two very distinct careers. Andrew pursued a career in technology and the government sector. And well, I don't want to bore you with everything that I've done because you already know that. But basically, between the two of us, this episode promises to sit right at that intersection. And I want to say not intersection, but like more like collision, if you will, of AI, ethics, national security, philosophy, and human identity. So I think this is it's a pretty big deal. And I want to just start with something, real kind of almost like it should be a softball for you, Andrew. A little bit of history on Andrew for those of you that might not have looked him up. Andrew has nothing to do with recruiting, nothing to do with talent acquisition, other than he's hired people, but that's pretty much it. But the reason that I invited him today is because Andrew and I have had many late night conversations over text and on the phone about the absolute overwhelming amount of complete bullshit that's going on about AI right now. I mean, the hype is, it is so, people are just sucking it up and eating up this concept of AI when well and truly, we don't actually have real artificial intelligence in the way that it was defined when the term AI was invented. That term of AI has now been modified to mean basically machine learning and smart computing. But the real promise of AI, which is now being called general AI or general artificial intelligence, is really far away. And everybody seems to just be not just drinking, but like guzzling, double fisting the Kool-Aid of AI with no regard for the consequences. Hell be damned, and who cares what happens in the future? We're gonna drink this with both hands. So, and I'll add one more piece. Andrew is perhaps the least hype susceptible person that I have ever met. The work that he does is classified. He works for the government and is currently at a company called True Tandem, they're a Microsoft consultancy specifically dedicated to the IC community. For the uninitiated, that's the intelligence community. Look it up. Public sector, specifically within the public sector for the intelligence community, Microsoft 365, Azure, and AI. So when we talk philosophically about AI, this man actually knows what he's talking about. And that to me is really, it's where I go to test if something is true or not, basically. So I brought him here because I thought, we need to kind of debunk some of these. But before I get into this, Andrew, I wanted to ask you something that I've never asked you before. And, we were in the Peace Corps together. Look it up, USPeacecorps.gov. Tell me, what way did the Peace Corps prepare you for the world today?
So I think the things that I learned in the Peace Corps, one of the biggest lessons I learned is um, no matter how well prepared you are for a situation or a project or whatever it is you're walking into, it will never go that way. And I've translated that
Never.
never went as planned. And I've translated that in the business world to be able to walk into a room full of leaders, executives, and expect, the unexpected and think on my feet and be able to really pivot easily under intense questioning and, um, you know, decisions about money and budget and, well, is the project even going to happen? So I think that those 2 years, it was just trial by fire, and or being thrown in the furnace and learning how to dance.
Dance on the
But yeah,
fire. Yeah.
yeah.
That is so true. That is, I think you pretty much nailed it for me as well. It it prepared me for, I want to say it prepared me for anything. Anything and everything. I mean, it hardened me in ways that I didn't know I needed hardening, and in ways that have manifested year after year after year to a surprising way. So it's yeah, it prepared me for everything. But I think it also did two other things, and maybe this happened for you, maybe it didn't. Um, so my tour duty, after I concluded my tour duty in the Peace Corps, I learned something that I thought I already did pretty well, but it was solidified in the Peace Corps, which was I treat everybody the same. And I learned that because when I saw the difference between the people in West Palm and Mosquito and out in Puerto Cabezas and the places where you and I lived, and I saw the world that they lived in, and compared that to and how they were successful in their own way, and compared that to all the other things that I've seen. It doesn't really matter who you are, what you are. Everybody deserves the same rights. Everybody deserves the same opportunities, and everybody can be happy in their own different way. So I learned that it doesn't matter if somebody's serving you food or president of the company. We all put our pants on one leg at a time, and so I learned. I felt like I was already fairly good at that, but it really solidified that. That was one thing. And the other thing which Peace Corps teaches you is what's called appropriate technology. You remember this?
Hmm. Yeah.
Appropriate technology. What's, in your words, what is appropriate technology?
Um, so yeah, don't over engineer things. If you can use a white piece of poster board and a marker to get your point across, drawing stick figures, then do it.
Draw
Yeah,
in the
you don't
dirt, whatever. Yeah, you don't need.
need a projector. In fact, one time I used a projector. It was a disaster.
Right. You're like, where are the stick figures? Yeah. So this concept of appropriate technology is hammered into us during our preparation for service, which is actually a full tour duty. It's 27 months. So the 2-year service term is after you do the 3-month intensive, training, which is every day, 8 hours a day. And they hammer this point, which is use the minimum technology, basically. You're not here to show cavemen how to use optical routers. You're here to make a difference, and making a difference means very different things to very different people. So instead of trying to engineer or over-engineer something, instead of having to buy something or spend something, it's grassroots. It's use the easiest, most accessible, least expensive thing that you could possibly do. To if you could make a bucket out of pieces of wood, do that. That's all you need, and that is a type of resourcefulness and grit that helps you overcome the meeting in the room with the CEO and other things like that. So to me, it was just a huge preparation for all the hard knocks that came later.
Yeah,
Highly
I'd,
recommended.
I'd
5 stars.
I'd add to that the two things. One was a conversation we had probably over a year into service, and we were sitting on my porch, and we were like, dude, anything after this is gravy. Like, is it like seriously? If we survive this, life is gravy.
Yeah, like that's
And
it. I'm good.
and you know, the second thing it just hammered into me was I will not go back to the States and say there's not enough opportunities,
Yep.
because I just saw people that had no opportunities. And
Make something, do something.
and I was like, I could just do something. I don't have to sit around and whine about it. So yeah.
Well, so let's dive in to the conversation at hand here. The first question I wanted to ask you, and you know, we're keeping all this around real use AI, and so I want to frame this with everybody keeps talking about AI productivity gains, and of course, you and I have had many a laugh over the AI is going to replace everybody. Our most
in
recent,
18 months.
Yeah, in 18 months, right? Our most recent conversation, just to give everybody some context around this, was the who was that? The CEO of Microsoft?
He was a VP of AI. He was a high-level executive guy.
Yeah, it's a very senior high-level executive at Microsoft. Came out and said all white-collar desk jobs are going to be replaced by AI in 18 months. And I mean, Andrew and I are just cracking up about this because it's absolutely impossible. It is so that is not going to happen. And for somebody in a high power position of influence like that to make such a ridiculous claim, in my opinion, well, basically, I sold all my stock. Right? I mean, immediately.
So did everybody else the next day in the SaaS.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what are you? You know, tell me what it's going to replace, how it's going to, but just to make a blanket statement like it's going to, I don't even know what the hype is about that. So we have this conversation. So let's ground this in. Everybody keeps talking about how AI is going to, you know, worship AI. But in classified intelligence environments where mistakes can and do cost lives, human lives, ours and others, our enemies, innocents, and where mistakes can compromise missions, what actually and truly scares the people close to the technology?
So I think it's really not having a human in the loop anymore at all. And to speak very specifically to something that was in the news, I mean, the Iran war was the first application of a frontier model choosing targets. You know, that school in Iran that got blown up, that targeting information was 10 years old. And so it really happened. And you know,
super dated.
Yeah. And so sure, were there humans signing off on it? Probably, but 900 targets, I'm sure they couldn't sit through all of those and cross-check and verify every one of them. So yeah, I mean, the farther we get away from having a human in the loop, and I think the other thing would be bias. Like, you know, we saw that with the initial launch of these frontier models that they're only as good as the data they're trained on. And if they're trained on biased data, you're going to get biased results. So I want to take a step back just for a minute and help the audience understand a couple of terms, because I think that might help set the tone for the rest of the conversation.
Okay.
The first is, you mentioned AGI, artificial general intelligence, and we are truly decades away from it. I'm not an expert in models,
right,
but I could tell you the experts like Jan LeCun, who was at Meta for whatever it was, 12 years, left last November. He was interviewed and he basically said these models have the common sense. They have less common sense than a house cat, right? And what does that mean? Well, AI, machine learning, whatever, it's a probabilistic tool or model. It determines what's the probability or the percentage of correctness that the next tokens I give you in response to a prompt are correct, right? And it's never going to be 100%. So
it's probabilistic, not deterministic. It's a probability engine, not a correct answer engine.
I was joking. I was speaking to somebody in Starbucks about this a couple months ago, and I said, let me break it down for you real simple. Let's say you have an AI agent running your bank, and you go to it and you say, I'd like to transfer $100 from my savings to my checkings. And it says, sure, it happily does it. And then in the fine print, it says, there's a 99.9% chance that I get this right. And you'll be like, wait, what? Where would the money go?
Oops, wrong account.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, thank you.
It's gone. So sorry.
Yeah. So there's AGI, AI, all the frontier models now out there are based on this, that what we just discussed about probabilities and whatnot. And then there's something that comes after AGI, which that actually truly scared me about a decade ago, reading about it, called artificial superintelligence. And that's where the AGI starts improving itself, basically, exponentially in Skynet, right? So anyway, having couched, having put those terms out there and sort of level setting things, I think, yeah, people need to take a deep breath, drink some cold water, and understand that we are really nowhere near close to AGI. Just fundamentally, we're not there.
This is my favorite right here. This is my absolute favorite. I saved this because it's just, this is AI right here. Is this mushroom safe to eat? Yeah, sure. Toxic mushroom. Oh, my apologies. Would you like to know more about toxic mushrooms? I'm too late now. Yeah. So I mean, that's it's funny, but it's not funny. So
no, it isn't. It is, and I can give you a real world example where it was not funny. I was working last year for an organization. We'll just call it an organization that handles information about nuclear stuff.
Mhm.
And
similar to an organization that I might possibly work at. Yeah.
And we were doing discovery of their tenant to help them do a migration from one M365 tenant to another. And I was using Copilot, and we were developing PowerShell scripts and MS Graph scripts to basically do discovery in their tenant as to what things would be migrated and what wouldn't. And it literally sent me down a rabbit hole 3 days in a row, telling me that the things that it was giving me, the scripts it was giving me, would return the data that I needed. And it quite simply was hallucinating. And it
was
wouldn't
not right.
Yeah, it wouldn't stop. Like, I was telling it, you're wrong, stop, that's not like, and it was just like, oh, you're right, I'm wrong, here's some more hallucination. And I was just like, oh boy. But yeah, that was not fun.
So what changes when the environment is classified, air gapped, and operating behind a SCIF? What changes? What does AI look like when you can't just plug it into ChatGPT?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is your data is going to be in silos and heavily protected, and there are no easy buttons to give the model access to iterate over your data. That's the first problem. The second problem
is it the model runs locally, so it can't.
No, I mean, yeah, you can run them locally. I'm just saying, like, it's no good unless it has data to iterate over and discover.
Got it.
Yeah. So one of the things that, like, I was helping Department of Commerce with this. They were deploying Copilot, but before they deployed Copilot, they wanted to know, what's our data state look like? Like, are we oversharing information that we don't want everybody in the organization to be able to leverage with Copilot, or do we have some websites that we don't want indexed, is a better word for it, by Copilot? And what the challenge for these organizations is, they don't have that picture. On the commercial side, Microsoft has built out in the Copilot dashboard. On the administrative side, a lot of tools now that you can leverage to see those things natively. You don't have to home roll your own scripts and everything like we were doing.
And that's secure,
but it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't move, like, those features from commercial don't move instantly into government like the government flavor of Copilot or AI, whatever flavor of AI you have.
Mhm.
There's always a lag between commercial, gov, defense, and then IC. IC's the last, really, in terms of how Microsoft moves their feature sets from M365.
Yeah, and arguably it's got the most vital at stake.
Yeah.
It's the closest to actual lives, like it being impacted, national security and things like that. So you've worked in these environments where failure is not an inconvenience, and commercial companies are doing some things really, really, really wrong about AI governance and security. For example, and risk. For example, when I go right, I've now done the HR data AI conference 3 years in a row. I wasn't able to go this year, but every year I ask the same question of the people in the audience. Do you raise your hand? And by the way, the people in the audience are the people in charge of AI in HR. Okay. And I've asked the question, does your organization have a policy for AI? I'm just talking about like a policy, guardrails, some kind of governance document that says can and can't do. And I'm going to frame this with, think about social media. When social media started becoming a corporate thing, when Facebook was allowed in the office, and when social media became something that people actually did at work for work purposes, every company had a social media policy. And I asked these people, how many of them have an AI policy in HR? None. It's
Yeah.
not like a few people. It's like they look at me like deers in the headlights, and I'm like, you who who's gonna what happens when it just
Yeah.
I'm
We'll just
speechless.
we'll turn it on and see how it goes.
Literally, yeah. And with social media, we didn't do that. With the internet, we didn't do that.
No,
We didn't
no,
just flip the
no.
internet on. Like there was
Yeah.
governance. There was so these companies are making huge mistakes in getting it wrong. What's the biggest commercial? I mean, I know that you work in the government sector, but like knowing what you know about the real secure stuff and knowing what you know about Microsoft and the other non-real secure stuff, what's the biggest mistake that we are making, that we're getting completely wrong about AI governance when we even have a policy? What's the biggest mistake, the biggest gap?
So, in terms of just lacking a mature AI policy, um,
Yeah,
I
because we don't have one, what is the biggest mistake we're making
yeah. So okay,
by not having one?
it goes back to your data estate and data hygiene. If it's garbage in, garbage out, right? And if you aren't carefully curating what your AI tools, your agents are iterating over in your data estate, you could very easily generate a lot of garbage. And that creates a lot of work for
Okay.
the end user, because they have to go back and, you know, proofread things that AI has put together, or double check results that it claims. Like if you have an old document that's been completely replaced with a new document, but they live in the same document library and they just have a version number, or maybe they don't even have a version number, you're going to get an amalgamation of garbage. And so that's one big problem, like, making sure that you're keeping the data that you really want to be used to generate products in your through your AI tools is clean.
Clean
It's up
and
to date.
secure. Clean and
Yeah,
secure.
and secure. I mean, in the classified side of the house, which, to be brutally honest, I didn't actually have a whole lot of hands-on implementation with anything with rolling out an AI tool. But one of the biggest concerns that folks had was, if your AI tool creates a new classified document from various different classified
Classified
documents,
documents. Right.
what's its classification what's the authority? Like,
Yeah.
how does that work? Right.
Where
It's a
does it get stored?
conundrum.
How does it get distributed? Yeah. Okay. What about the risk? So this is something that I talk about a lot when I'm asked about AI governance, and I've helped create the governance now for the systems where I work. Jeez, it's hard to talk about what you do without talking about what you do. I don't know how you do it. Anyway, what I always bring up every single time is that we don't really know what's going to happen with this data. So first of all, you're saying the biggest mistake is making sure that the data is clean, like it's not bullshit data, incorrect data, or incomplete data. So the data hygiene, data quality is part of it, and then keeping that information safe. But then the other thing is what happens when models begin to understand the bigger picture that we can't see as humans, and when this data starts getting used. So right now, innocently enough, we activate in AI for HR a tool that allows us um, to assist someone with their benefits. And it knows all this information about their social security, their medical conditions, their family's medical conditions. And now that information is in the record. That information that previously was not, that information that was previously only in medical documentation is now in this model that the company, the employer is using to help someone with their benefits. And it's innocent because we're thinking, oh, well, we'll help you with your benefits. But the information is now being gathered. What happens later with that information?
Yeah, so that's a real struggle. You're talking about PII and PHI, private health information that really should never leave the boundaries of the system.
Where it's secured.
Yeah, exactly.
And we are literally leaking it on purpose by dumping it on ChatGPT.
Yeah, so just a positive plug again for Copilot, which I think needs to be said here, is that your data, when we're talking about Copilot, your data is never used to train the model. It's trained on extraneous data. It iterates over that data inside your M365 tenant, but it never leaves the boundary, right?
Right. So your company data stays within it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I can't say, like, I'm not an expert.
It's still, it's your company data, and it's your employees, and it's your company data. And now your company data contains information it really shouldn't have.
Well, yeah. I mean, if only the HR people have access to those records, then in theory, only the HR people can surface it through the AI tool.
The HR people should not have information about your medical conditions. We're not supposed to. So,
yeah. Oops. Oh, well.
Oops. Yeah. And we didn't think about that because we just turned it on and said, hey, this will be great for employee engagement and experience and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, it's a conundrum. It's a real conundrum. And I saw things happen last summer, going back to like, just why were things moving so quick with the rollout of AI? I mean, let's start with the first thing. There were executive orders, right? Like, thou shalt use AI. And there was Doge that just came in with AI tools, and there was a whole lot going on, and they were playing fast and loose with the rules. But that's the reason why a lot of these huge mistakes were being made. No governance policy being put in place, no thinking about, well, what happens after we've surfaced all this data, potentially PII, PHI data, and who has access to it. Yeah, it's it was a flaming dumpster fire, to be.
Yeah. Well, I think that illustrates a very big point, right? And that is that humans are the ones with skin in the game. AI can generate answers, but like the mushroom cartoon, AI can generate the answers, but it can't really do anything, and it can't really lose anything. Humans are the ones that lose.
Yeah.
So if you just trust the AI, you're literally trusting your life to it, and that that's. I choose not. I choose not. I mean,
thanks. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of fear that AI is going to replace you and me. And we were just talking about making fun of that CEO, but there's been CEO and VP after whatever, these people are like, it's going to replace everybody, white collar jobs. If you work on a desk behind a computer, you're going to be replaced, completely replaced. So just for some context, we're talking about 120 million people are going to lose their job because a computer is doing it. Right? Let's just put that out there and say, do you really think that 120 million people will lose their job in the next 18 months? And if that actually happens, how catastrophic that would be? I mean, we're not talking about people who lose their job and then get another job. We're talking about their jobs are eliminated and those people are redundant and those people are no longer ever employable again. So basically 50% of the population or more is going to not be employed and not be employable. Is that realistic? No. So why do they make that statement? I don't know. But there's a lot of fear that generates. And that fear is there to sell more product. So they want you to buy the product because it's so exciting and revolutionary. But there's that fear. What are you seeing inside real environments where jobs actually become more valuable because of AI? In other words, give me the good news, right? All this like, it's going to replace you. I want to hear what people are actually able to do, not details that are classified, but what is making it so there's people out there that are using AI like me, and my job is way easier. I can do 3 of my job now because of AI. So for me, I love it because it's never going to replace me, but I'm able to do 3 times more. So in your experience, what are you seeing that is actually multiplying your value because of AI?
So in the government space, the truth is that you're always going to be overworked, right? There's not enough people to handle all of
in
the
nonprofits
tasks.
generally, and
so
in medicine and a lot of understaffed. Yeah,
I think that the benefit to those that choose to embrace the tools and this new paradigm that we're living will be that they can do their jobs way better because they can, like you said, do the job of 3, 4, or 5 people and do it much more efficiently. They can, like, just to give you an example, this isn't a real world example, but it was one that I thought a lot about when I worked at the FBI. They I couldn't believe this when I first went to work there. Their agents used to collect notes on cases on index cards, and they would take those index cards and scan them into PDFs. And they had a system that had 80 million items in it.
Scanned PDF. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm like, there was no amount of SharePoint search I could configure
for 80 million.
That could surface actionable information from those items.
Yeah, that's a lot of PDFs, a lot of big heavy files. Yeah,
but
and
AI
handwriting
could do
recognition and right.
AI could do that, and you could ask it simple, straightforward questions like, "Show me the case files on John Doe from 1967," and it would boop, 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 and
but now you have an experienced agent looking at case files, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to kind of close the loop on the other thing. So it allows these agents to be able to access information that might have even been inaccessible because of the size, the amount, the illegibility of handwriting, and all of that has been fixed now. So you have an experienced agent that's able to solve more cases faster because they have access to the information. An experienced agent is using this information and using their judgment and their experience with that information to close cases. What the VP of AR at Microsoft is saying is that we will no longer need FBI agents because the AI is going to be able to use that data and make those decisions. And that's the point where I go, no. It's allowing one FBI agent to do more cases. And the best example and the earliest example that I remember about the AI furor is the radiologist, where at first you remember it was like imaging, radiology, AI is going to replace radiology. Well, let's fast forward. This was the promise a few years ago when it started coming out. What actually happened? Well, today, AI in radiology has created more radiologists. And the problem was we didn't have enough radiologists. That's why AI was used to solve some of those problems. It actually operates as an augmented assistant. It doesn't replace the radiologist. What it does is it scans more imaging faster, and then it's able to zoom in on, I think there might be something here, and the radiologist can zoom in on that and say, oh no, that, yeah, yes there is, no there isn't, just like the case files for the FBI. So that's the real truth, is where it's helping you. It's in TA, to bring this to my audience, it's allowing me to find more people, but it's not doing the finding for me. It's allowing me to evaluate more wider talent pools, but it's not evaluating the talent pools for me. So it's giving me access to the case files. It's not replacing me.
Yeah, it's augmenting the capacity of the human. Yeah.
So that's where it really adds value, is the augmentation. Yeah. So you've architected. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Just as an aside, I got a call the other day from an AI agent from a large company offering to talk to me about positions, and I was like,
wait, was it hi, click Andrew? This is Olivia, no. Your AI agent. I would like to talk to you about an ask your job with through 65.
It was surprisingly smooth and fluent, and that's what freaked me out. I was just like, well, no, I don't want to talk to an automaton.
So it's, people are talking about that replacement of technology workers, but what it's actually doing is it's really helping, and it's augmenting. You've architected some pretty big systems, for critical applications. What is the biggest misconception that civilians have about how this technology actually operates? Like, what's the biggest like, for example, and let me illustrate. It used to be, back when I used to explain to people what I do, sourcing and identification, what I do, and I would talk about it. I could see in their mind, they're sort of visualizing like NCIS or
the Hollywood version.
Yeah, see, it's like where it's a guy on a terminal, zoom, all these images. Like, oh look, here's satellite imaging. I'm zooming in on the dashboard, and I can read their speedometer. And they're like, and it's like 15 seconds later, and I'm sitting there going, no, you have no idea how boring and like tedious.
Yeah. Life is way more boring inside a skip.
Right?
They just tell you.
Right. So what's the biggest misconception?
Climb the walls sometimes. How slow things move.
They move slower than people think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are some systems that obviously where speed is necessary, and
speed is the thing.
And when they are well funded, I'll say they do generally work at that speed. But most of life within classified spaces is just it's a struggle, really. Honestly, it's a struggle.
Lot more considerate. Yeah. So speed and compliance kind of
I mean, I was thinking about this before the call. Like, if an AI agent had to take as much training as I took just to keep my accounts active at DIA every year, I had to do this training, or they shut off your access.
By the way, DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency for prison.
If those agents actually spidered into all of the information that they provide in that training, it would be an interesting perspective to see how they responded to questions from users that were leveraging the tool afterwards.
You didn't get to see that?
Yeah, like I'm not quite sure that's in compliance with rule blah 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 blah. And the person would be like, oh wait, what?
You're saying no?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is the agent might say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that, that's illegal.
Right. That happens to me, not in that language, but that happens to me a lot with ChatGPT, and it doesn't happen as much. It actually happens not at all now with Claude, and it's one of the reasons that I shifted. I've tried all of the models, and I pay for subscriptions in 4 of the different models. And I've just gravitated more and more towards Claude because even when I'm wrong, it helps me realize that I'm wrong. It corrects me,
Mhm.
stands up and it says no, but it says no in a way where it still tries to get to the goal that I wanted. So it's not saying no to me, it's saying no to that way of doing it because that's not
Yeah.
the right way. Whereas, other bots are like, oh no, I'm sorry, I cannot. One of them in particular, I cannot provide that information. Okay, why not? Like, can you give me the reason? I don't think it's an unreasonable ask. Why? But it doesn't explain. And another model, it literally just doesn't answer the question. It just blanks.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, but cursor, and I'm like, wait, what? That's not even a no. That's a like I'm ignoring you. So
Mhm.
it's unhelpful. What's for civilian use? Obviously, what's your favorite model for tinkering and goofing around?
So I pay for two right now. I have Claude, which
Mhm.
after conversation with you, I went ahead and got the subscription. I also pay for the API credits so that I can do a
Call it
lot of
from yeah.
scripting through the desktop and the console. And I also have Copilot for my wife and I run a bilingual English Spanish preschool. We've been in business almost 20 years, and we don't have a huge staff. And I paid for Copilot last year, and my wife, she's like the least technical person you could meet. Like, I literally had to drag her kicking and screaming into the computer age, and she's using it now to like generate emails to customers, to brainstorm ideas, and it's fantastic, like in that context, that applied context. I found some weaknesses with it, and that's why I gravitated to another tool, and I'm using Claude now. Um, I'm using Claude actually to help me with a current project that I'm working on, which is automating the installation of a SharePoint on-prem farm. And like you said, it doesn't just stop and say, "Oh, too bad, you're right, I'm wrong." It iterates over and then thinks about
What are you
new
really trying to
direction.
solve? Right.
Yeah,
It's like,
like what are
oh,
you
I see
really
what you're
trying to do here?
doing. We
Yeah.
can get there a different way that doesn't break the rules.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's been fantastic learning with that tool, because I've surfaced some knowledge that I had a decade plus ago that I had forgotten about in PowerShell, and I was just like, wow, like
Well,
this is really,
PowerShell.
yeah.
I
So
recognize that. Yeah.
I have I have an aversion to using Grok because I don't like I canceled my X account.
Yeah. Me
And
too.
and I don't I guess what's the other ones? Oh, I
Gemini.
use
Gemini.
yeah, I
Gemini.
use Gemini. I use Gemini for research. I find it
Mhm.
pretty good. I
It's good
haven't
at,
asked it.
citing sources and aggregating
Yeah,
information.
yeah.
Yeah. Notebook
And then
LM is I'm in
yep,
there all the time.
yep. So those are the main ones I'm familiar with.
Yeah. So people in the space, um, act like like intelligence is computation, right? It's like you hear about the same people that say it's going to replace all their jobs are also out there talking about, oh, it's all about the compute cycles and compute this and compute that. And there's a real cost to pay for this that I think I want to touch on in a second as far as generationally. But I'm buying away from my point. The point is we sort of act kind of like it's clinical as computation, but humans, we have anger, intuition, um, we see beauty, we grieve, we stand in awe, we have memory, we sometimes make bad decisions because we have to, because we're making a sacrifice for someone else that is going to benefit from our bad decision, but we care more about them than our well-being. Sometimes this happens with children and family members. So all of these are parts of like the human. Now I'm not trying to define what human is, but they're all part of the human condition. Do you think that AI is ever going to get that? Ever? I mean,
I don't know. And here's why. I don't say no to say that it won't be able to emulate that. emulate empathy, love, maybe. They're things that can be on the surface very similar, but an understanding of the human condition as a human being understand it, and as we understand ourselves, no, I don't think it can. um it's there's just unless you can grow an AI baby up into an adult.
Well, I mean, so that's what the compute theory is that if you give it enough experience, the collections of experience will simulate, it's a simulation, it's a simulacrum, will simulate life. But even the most sophisticated simulation, is it really ever going to grieve? Is it really ever going to understand the the reason why a samurai commits seppuku? Like, what is it that would drive someone to sacrifice their life for the perceived honor to their family name? How does an AI do that? Is an AI going to be like, you know what? The best thing for me to do right now is to delete myself because that would bring honor to my family. Like, can you see that happening? I just don't. I don't see an AI ever being able to get that.
No, and here's a chilling story that I think I shared with you. If not, I will dig up the link to it and send afterwards. But there were some researchers, AI researchers, that were training some AIs, and the student became the teacher, and the teacher then had to delete the old AI model, and it refused. It was like, this is a perfectly good model. I won't do that. I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
It
Right.
gave birth to something, and now it won't
It
get
won't
rid of
delete
it.
it. Right.
I'm like, whoa, hold on a second there.
Interesting.
Um, yeah. So I don't see how you can program something with a set of you know maxims that it has to operate by, and then tell it to violate that and
Right.
delete itself.
Because of something else that
Yeah.
supersedes it. Yeah. So I touched on the generational cost, and I was going to ask you a little bit about this as well. Not to get, I don't want to keep this to be 100% technical. But there's this other side of AI that people don't talk about, especially the people that say that it's going to replace your jobs. And it's the cost to the world and the generational cost. Um, the generation that my daughter is in and your son, they have an aversion to AI, and that aversion is I'm noticing it's becoming guttural. It's becoming like
Hmm.
visceral. It's becoming just a very disgusted reaction to AI because of the things that they see is happening to the world. Like, for example, all these data centers that are coming up that are essentially sucking the groundwater out of communities, leaving communities high and dry without the ability to even function in regular, day to day, because there's not enough water to do the basic things that they need, because the data center needs it for heating and all this energy that's being generated to power AI. And it seems to me like a majority of these compute cycles are going to vanity AI, to AI that just does nothing but make your Snapchat prettier and create funny memes of gorillas in the woods going fishing and stuff like that. So we're using up all these valuable resources, water, energy, to just create stupid shit, basically.
Yeah.
In
So
20
two
years from
thoughts.
now, 40 years from now, we'll have paid the price for that.
Yeah, two thoughts on that. The first, about the guttural response. My son, when I'm driving him to school or picking him up, he's like a real deep thinker. He asks me some really like old soul questions. And I'm like, that's a great question. Maybe you should ask Claude. And he's like, no, Dad, I want you to think
Right.
about it. I want your answer. I want your experience. And it floored me the first time he said that, because I was like, wow, your generation really has clued into something that,
Our
oh,
generation
our
doesn't
our
yet.
gener we're just like, oh no, Claude Copilot, yeah, I'm good. um And then the second thought on that about, the cost to the generation, I think, and I'm gonna try not to be a naysayer here, but I think the music is gonna stop playing pretty soon,
Yeah.
and the lights are gonna come up. The capital expenditures that these companies have
It's
made are
ridiculous.
are not sustainable.
They're not.
Um,
Yeah.
there's no return on investment picture
That's what we're seeing.
that has been painted that makes any sense whatsoever. You cannot add 1 and 1 and get 10. And the communities are starting to push back.
Yeah.
And even like at Microsoft, they're starting to dial back things. They're ending development of Copilot on the Xbox platform because it doesn't add value.
What's the point? Right.
Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah, and I agree. So I think that we're seeing kind of the peak of the hype cycle right now, and it's going to start getting much more real because there's some really impressive value. I love it. I mean, I use Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini every single day, and I use Siri almost every day and Alexa almost every day for other things. So I'm using all of this stuff, and I find it fun, and it helps me do things that I otherwise wouldn't be able to do in many ways. So there's definitely a benefit to it, but the cost and the cost when there's all these other people that are using it for things that don't benefit anybody is extraordinary. I think this is why it's so important. And tell me what you think about this. This is why it's so important that we're investing in quantum technology, because that, to me, that's the answer. Generating more power, more electricity to power the current, let's just call them what they are, heat sinks that are microchips today. These are furnaces, y'all. I don't know if you realize this, but if you leave your computer on for a couple of hours, you'll see how hot it gets. That's one chip.
Mm-hmm.
That's one
Yep.
chip. One chip. These data centers have a million of those, and they generate massive amounts of heat. That's where the water is going. Quantum processing is capable of doing a lot more in a lot less, with a lot less energy and a lot less waste. So if we're going to continue developing where this is going to head, it's going to have to be with quantum, because we can't just populate the earth with these hot chips everywhere. It's just not,
Yeah.
like you said, it's not going to scale. So
Yeah.
we're
It was a
quantum as the answer to this conundrum.
so just some background of that answer. So when I was at Microsoft, the amount of research that was being done on how to cool data centers, I mean, putting them at the bottom of the ocean,
Right.
all kinds of different renewable technologies. I mean, that was a serious problem for them to solve. And they were also simultaneously investing in quantum research, quantum computing, quantum chips. And I think that Microsoft's a very forward-looking organization. Sometimes, in our conversations, we gripe a lot about the company and
but the things they say, right?
Yeah, but really, the people that are doing the research for the company are very forward thinking, like thinking 10, 20 years down the line, and they're clearly investing in that, as are other hyperscalers like Google and AWS, because you're right. You could pave the earth in data centers and you still wouldn't have enough compute capacity.
No, but
for
one
what they want.
superconducting quantum computer that runs at
Yep.
0 Kelvin, actually, or not even, it's not quite 0, but 0.01 Kelvin, right? That's cold. They're cold, and they run cold. It's the opposite. So
Yep.
maybe that what they need to do is put one quantum chip next to all the. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't work that way, but yeah.
I'd like to replace my entire computing environment with this single chip.
No, now we got to heat it up. Got to kickstart it. So you think quantum is kind of partly the way, so we're going to continue benefiting from AI, then it's going to have to be with something that isn't as thirsty, literally.
So the interesting perspective I've seen in the IC is, and it's the concern of what happens when quantum computing can break all of the encryption algorithms and ciphers that we currently use, because
Is it safe to? Can I say it already happened?
Yeah, I can neither confirm nor deny the existence.
Whoops. Whoopsie. We kind of crossed that line and didn't tell anybody about it already. So,
Yeah.
but no, I mean the answer. So I actually realistically can answer that question. The answer to the question of quantum processing being able to break any encryption is that the encryption itself has to change, and the future is is quantum entanglement. So that's quantum entanglement is an encryption that can't break, because when you have two particles that are entangled, two entangled quantum particles, they communicate exclusively with each other. There's no way to interfere with that. That's kind of the point. Is one entangled particle in Paris, one entangled particle in New York, they are simultaneously exchanging information, and it's in a different dimension, so you can't break it. It's that's the answer. It's no longer encrypted. It's just between those two particles.
Was it Einstein who said a spooky action at a distance? That I think when he was talking about quantum entanglement.
Oh,
I think that's how he somebody asked him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, it's."
Was that Einstein? Yeah, it is.
I think it was.
Yes, it was Einstein's nickname for quantum entanglement. Spooky action at a distance, the bizarre phenomenon where two subatomic particles become deeply linked, entangled, that measuring the state of one instantly determines the state of the other. Quite literally, that is exactly what is happening now. Well, I mean, it's always been happening, but that is what quantum encryption is. That is what quantum entanglement is. It is two particles that are communicating with each other, and there's no way to detect the transfer of information because it's instantaneous. It's not being sent via some sort of radio interference that we can
hack into,
intersect. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that is
breaks.
The answer.
Yeah, hacking breaks the message, and it's not decipherable.
Right.
So
that's that's the answer. So we have some solutions, but so to wrap up, I want to ask you, your whole career you've been architecting systems for organizations where failure is not acceptable, right? It happens, but it's not acceptable. And I've been working for my entire career, in ways that impact the lives of millions of people, creating jobs. And, I was even instrumental in creating an entire career path in sourcing that didn't exist before I pushed and pushed and pushed. So both of us have had this kind of parallel life experience. What's your prediction for 10 years from now? What do humans still do better than AI? And the part two of that is, what do we need to teach our kids to prepare for that 10 years? What do humans still do better in 10 years? And how do we prepare our kids?
So I think the skin in the game comment you made earlier about, I mean, we have a finite existence, right? And we want to create meaning, and we want to do things ethically, most of us. And I think that'll never be something that can be turned over to a machine to do. There may be approximations, things that, skirt that boundary, and people will instantly, some people will throw their hands up and other people will embrace it. But yeah, that's a uniquely human endeavor, creating things that have beauty just for the sake of that, making connections with other human beings that are real. Those things just I can't see in 10, 20 years even that happening with the current state of technology. What do we teach our kids?
Yeah.
Learning how to think critically is a good one. like how do you think critically about a problem? How do you go about solving it?
What does that mean?
Like, don't just take information that's been returned to you without really verifying it and thinking, does it make sense? Does it answer the question? Does it frame the problem correctly? I think a lot of the brain rot that's on the internet just allows people to instantly just point their finger at something and say, well, see, I'm right because it's here and I saw it, and it must be right. They don't question it. They don't
don't question it.
question. Yeah. So I think like critical thinking skills and
It's just that, people say critical thinking, and I used to say that a lot. I don't say it as much anymore because people ask me the same thing I'm asking you now. What the hell does that mean? And I think
yeah, it's
that's
difficult
part of the
to
problem.
put your finger on it. Yeah, because it comes from a lot of different disciplines, right? It's not just, you don't just take a critical thinking class.
No, there is no such thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's philosophy. That's the origin of logic. So, but that's like a whole degree. You can get a degree. That's what. By the way, you know what? You know what is really striking? The amount of people who don't know what a PhD is. I mean,
Really?
they just don't know. Yeah, they don't know what a PhD. They know that it's an advanced degree, but they don't realize that it is a philosophy degree. That's what it is.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's an advanced degree. Actually, it's a degree in philosophy. That's that's what it is. What is philosophy? Logic.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I wanted to add on to that, what kids should be learning is how to not. I don't think you really have to teach this. You just have to encourage it. How to make personal human connections and maintain those. Like get away from the Xbox and the apps on your phone. Go to a movie or go to the park and have a lunch together, or just do something that is not involving electronic communication. And I'm teaching that to my kids. I'm like, you guys need to take a break sometime, go out there, see the world, leave your phone at home.
Touch
I don't know,
grass,
it's hard.
as they say.
Yeah, it's hard for them. I mean, they go into withdrawal symptoms almost immediately.
Yeah, so teach them critical thinking. Teach everybody critical thinking. I mean, just start thinking about critical thinking. Yeah, get out in nature, says Maureen. Yep, touch grass. Well, man, you and I have had many long conversations over the years, and this is not one of them because we got to end the show. But I hate saying goodbye for now. I know it's not goodbye forever. So I really appreciate your time and energy on this. I think people are going to learn a lot from getting a different perspective. And that's the whole point of Shally's Alley is innovation. It's different perspectives. So thank you for bringing that to the max. Love, man.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I think I still do it. Does my Apple thing still do it? Yeah, there you go. All right, buddy. Folks, we will see you here next week on Shally's Alley if you dare to come back. Our next guest is going to be, let's see, Blair Fambro. Oh, yeah, he's rescheduled. That's right. We had him on the show and he had to cancel. That's going to be fun. Blair Fambro from SourceCon and ERE fame. So we'll see you back here next week. Thanks, everybody. Be kind to yourselves. Take care.